So, you've decided that you want to start doing gameplay recordings and live streams, but you don't want to break the bank. Good for you! For the vast majority of streamers and content creators, myself included, streaming is just kind of a side gig that you do and far from your primary source of income. And when you first get started, you don't know if you're going to stick with it or if you're going to get any financial return on your investment. So it's perfectly understandable and it's very smart for you to be watching a video like this and not wanting to sell your house, your car, and your wedding ring in order to buy a fancy camera or setup. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys a couple of pieces of equipment that I highly recommend that to me are a great compromise between quality and price. So I'm going to refer to this as budget friendly because I don't really love the term low budget. To me, low budget implies that your content is going to look and sound a lot like this, and we don't necessarily want that. We still want to create good content, but we don't want to shell out thousands of dollars for it because let's face it, streaming is a very competitive field right now. There are a lot of people getting in and doing it very well. And so you're not going to be successful if your video and your audio don't sound good at all. You need to have at least some sort of presentability to where people are going to be able to sit through and watch and listen to you for hours on end. And so you need to sound at least decent and look decent while you're doing it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be attractive because look at me, but hey, anyway, we're gonna see if we can pretty up something anyway. So if you just watched some famous streamer's video where he went over his $20,000 or $30,000 streaming setup and it got you feeling a little bit depresso and you're wanting to get started without shelling out that kind of money, I'm gonna go over how you can start streaming if you're balling on a budget like me. And if you want to buy any of the products that I talk about here in this video, there's going to be links to their Amazon.com pages in the description below. So feel free to click those and check those items out if these are some items that you'd like to check out some more, get some more pricing on, and maybe even purchase. And while you're down there, also be sure to check out my Twitch live stream where you can talk to me personally during the streams, and I do a lot of different content and stream pretty regularly. So be sure to go to twitch.tv/StormPow to check out some more of that stuff. So I want to go ahead and say that the only real primary piece of equipment that I'm not going to be talking about at all during this video is the computer itself. And the reason for that is because there's so many different builds that you can go with, and it all depends on what type of content you're going to be looking at. And so I'm assuming that you may already have a computer. If not, I'm going to be making another video going over some low budget but quality inducive computer builds. The first piece of equipment that I'm going to be talking about today is the Elgato HD60S. Now, most of you are already very familiar with this, and I want to talk about it first because I actually think it is the most expensive individual piece of required equipment that I'm going to be talking about. And the cool thing about it is you may not even need one depending on what type of content you're planning on making. So for those of you who may not know what an Elgato is, basically this is a capture card and it records console video gameplay. Elgato's done an amazing job with this thing because back in the early 2010s when I did YouTube on my old YouTube channel, I used something called the Hauppauge HD PVR, which was the industry standard for capture cards in the gameplay recording industry at the time, and that thing was like $200. It was big and bulky, and it had a huge delay when you were recording, and I don't even think that poor dude had HDMI on it. This thing is great. It's just a little bit cheaper than that one was. You can see how tiny, portable, and just sleek looking this thing is, and it's just very simple to use, works like a charm, and won't break the bank. And it produces great looking video. So Elgato, if you go to their website or look them up, you're going to find a couple of different capture card recording options. The main options are this, and then they've got a couple of internal capture cards which actually go directly into your computer itself and can record in 4K, whereas this is limited to 1080p 60 FPS, which again, 4K is obviously a great option, but we're looking to keep things relatively budget friendly. So this is the best bang for your buck and compromise as far as quality and as far as price goes. Because honestly, if you're balling on a budget like me, you probably don't have a computer that can render videos in 4K and much less stream them in 4K. And you're probably not a Twitch partner yet, which means, your quality is only going to be so great anyway. So overall, there's just no need to get a 4K capture card quite yet. This thing you can get for well under $200 and it's going to get the job done great. It's going to integrate so smoothly into your streaming software like Streamlabs, OBS, and it's going to look fantastic. Alright guys, optional product time. So while the Elgato itself is kind of optional depending on whether you're actually going to be recording console gameplay or not, this one is an addition that you can get if you're recording console gameplay, but you want to be just a little bit bougie. So this is an HDMI switch, and the reason why I recommend getting one of these is because the Elgato only has one HDMI input. So you plug in whatever console you're recording, and then it comes out through another HDMI output, which goes to your TV or your monitor, and then it's got USB, which goes to your computer to actually record it. That way you can record it on your computer, but you can still watch the gameplay while you're playing it on your preferred TV or monitor. So with that, if you have a couple of different consoles that you own and you're planning on recording, any of them at any given time, you may be a little bit inconvenienced if you're having to plug in each individual console. So if I want to record my Switch, I have to plug it into there, and then I want to play PS4 and record that. I've got to unplug it. You might have to go behind your TV or whatever. Depending on your current situation, it might be just a little bit of an inconvenience. So I recommend getting an HDMI switch, because what this does is this got a couple of different inputs. You can plug in all these different consoles into it, and then it can automatically detect based off of which console is sending it a signal through HDMI, which one you're trying to play, and then it outputs one HDMI signal, which can go into the capture card. There are a lot of different options you can go with this. Personally, I've always used ones by Kenevo, and I recommend pretty much anything that they have in the way of this. You can get these for pretty cheap, under 50 bucks, and you can get them even cheaper than that if you don't need 4K or anything like that. So again, it's not a necessary thing at all, because having this is not going to improve the quality of your stream at all, but it might improve the quality of your life. So personally for me, I'm a lazy dude, and I really enjoy having one of these because I can plug in all my consoles and then plug this into the Elgato, and then every time I fire up my Elgato, it knows what console I'm wanting to record because the Kenevo told it which one I want to record. But like I said, if you're going to be a strictly PC gaming streamer, then you don't need either of these, so lucky you. But with that being said, if you're going to be a primarily PC gaming streamer, you're probably going to need a higher end PC. And so you might have to shell out more money for the computer itself if you want to keep up with all the different new games that are coming out that are obviously going to be a little bit more demanding each and every year. You might have to buy some new upgrades occasionally for that. And so it's kind of a give and take situation. But again, I'm not going to get too much into that because I want to make an entire video talking about some different builds and different comparisons between PC setups. Next up, we're going to talk about webcams, which is one of the main things that people like to talk about, and I don't blame them because I'm a big videophile. I really like, different types of videos, and sometimes when I see a stream that looks really great, I'm just engrossed by it. But personally, I'm going to recommend the Logitech C922 webcam, and the reason why I recommend that is because it can record at 1080p 30 FPS or 720p 60 FPS, and it's pretty dang cheap. So normally I would only recommend something that does 1080p and 60 FPS because I really like that type of quality, but really you have to remember that odds are you're going to be scaling your webcam down very significantly, and it's going to be a very small portion of the video. So the main thing that you want to make sure looks good is your gameplay, and then as long as your webcam doesn't look like garbage, you're going to be fine. So when I stream, I use 720p resolution so that way I can still get the 60 frames per second on my webcam, and personally I think everything looks fine considering how much money I spent. Now you will notice if you try to record that webcam in the 1080p resolution where you're taking up the entire screen, maybe if you're doing a video like this and you're using that webcam, personally I don't like doing that because to me that webcam, the 30 FPS doesn't look very good. It actually looks more like 25 or less FPS personally, and it can cause the audio to look like it's out of sync. And then sometimes that 720p, when it's stretched out into a full 16:9 screen, sometimes it looks a little bit less than 720p to me. So personally, I wouldn't recommend it if you're planning on doing a lot of videos like this. Personally, I use my cell phone or something like that when I'm trying to do a video like this, where I'm going to be full screen. I'm the main focus of the video for an extended period of time because personally, I think that it is only a good webcam if you're looking for streaming or things of that nature. But if you're just looking for a relatively cheap webcam for streaming, it to me is again the best compromise between quality and price. You'll hear a lot about the Logitech Brio as well. It's significantly more expensive, but it can actually record in up to 4K quality. So I've watched a lot of comparison videos on it when I was trying to decide what webcam I wanted to get for streaming, and personally to me, I don't think that the quality increase you get from the Logitech Brio versus the C922 is really worth the price. And again, that's just my opinion. I recommend going and watching some videos. There's tons of videos where they compare the two directly because it is such a common comparison. But personally, the final verdict for me was to just go with the C922. And then when you're ready to just really shell out some money and step your game up as far as video quality goes, I recommend skipping the Logitech Brio and other higher end USB webcams and just going with a DSLR altogether. So DSLR is a digital single lens reflex. Basically, it's a high-end camera that isn't normally natively designed to go to a computer. You know, it's mostly what photographers and things like that use. But a lot of popular streamers use DSLRs for the video on their YouTube content and their Twitch videos, even live during a live stream. But you really can't get a halfway decent DSLR for under $500, and you still have to buy an additional piece of equipment that Elgato makes called the Elgato Cam Link, so that way you can plug your DSLR camera into your computer and get that footage live for your live stream. So you're looking at a lot of money when you want to upgrade to the DSLR setup. So again, not going to go too much into that because that's leaving the budget-friendly realm at that point. But when you're ready to step up your game, I just recommend sticking with a C922 or something comparable for the time being, and then eventually when you're ready to just go all out, just go ahead and get a DSLR. Skip the Brio and the other high-end expensive USB webcams. And there are some tricks that people have found to where you can record your cell phone and have that live. So if you've got a really great cell phone camera and you don't want to buy a webcam altogether, look at those options. I don't usually recommend them because a lot of the times, you know, it's inconvenient not having your phone with you at all, you know, during a stream. You may not be able to check your texts or anything like that. A lot of people don't like that. It uses up the battery on their phone, things of that nature. And a lot of times those setups are not the best. So, you know, there's different ones depending on if you have an Apple or an Android, so I'm not going to delve too much into that, but feel free to look that up on YouTube as well. There are some people that do that pretty regularly. Next up, let's talk about microphones. That's the other main thing that I know a lot of you guys are probably interested in. So there's two main kinds of microphones, and you're going to see USB microphones and you're going to see XLR microphones. And for the longest time, I refused to get into the XLR game because I was convinced that it was just going to break the bank and was not going to be worth my money. But I actually think that I was completely wrong on that for years. But I'm still going to go over a couple of different options here. So basically, you can get a USB microphone which plugs directly into your computer using, you guessed it, a USB cable, or you can get an XLR microphone, which is still a very similar type of microphone, but it uses a different type of cable called an XLR cable and plugs into something called an audio interface. And then that audio interface has different buttons and things of that nature that you can use to control your audio, and then the audio leaves the audio interface and goes to your computer using a USB cable or something similar. So personally, the best setup that I've found is the Behringer XM8500 microphone and the Euphoria UM2 audio interface. So both of these pieces of equipment are a little under $100 each normally, and to me, the quality is great. And you're still using an XLR setup, which is gonna give you a lot better quality compared to a USB setup. My only complaint about the XM8500, which is actually what I'm using to record the audio for this video, is that sometimes it gets a little bit tricky with the explosive sounds. And you might have even heard some of these sounds during the video, I hope not. But definitely if you get a little bit closer to the microphone like this, and you start using P sounds, we are purchasing some powerful microphones on Amazon. There's not a P in Amazon. So you probably heard some at least at that point. And so the microphone can get a little bit touchy with that, but this can be fixed very easily by getting a cheap, and I do mean cheap, pop filter, like $5 or $10 to cover up. You can get little muffles and caps that go over the microphone that can really help out with that stuff. I've used a couple of different ones of those and got some really great results for next to no money at all. If you want to keep things just a little bit cheaper and go the USB route, personally, I really recommend the Audio-Technica AT2005 USB microphone. Now this thing, in my opinion, has really great audio quality for a cheaper USB microphone. My only complaint with it is that it is not very sensitive. Now that can be a good and a bad thing. It is a dynamic microphone, so you've got to be pointing at the microphone in order for it to be picking you up. And if I so much as turn around like this, it significantly loses the audio, and you've got to be looking at it. And so, you know, it might not be the best thing when you're streaming and you're streaming for hours. You can't necessarily sit upright like this and just stare at your microphone for the entirety of a stream, but you can definitely tweak with some of the settings on your computer to make it a little bit more sensitive. But overall, it's a great microphone as far as the cost and the quality of it. I think it sounds great. And one of my favorite things about this microphone is that it actually has an XLR output on it. So you can be recording via USB like I am at this time, but say you want to upgrade to an XLR setup, you can actually just plug an XLR cable into this and put it into the audio interface that you end up buying. So when you're ready to upgrade to XLR, you don't have to buy a new microphone exactly. So now for this portion of the video, I'm actually using the AT2005 using the XLR setup, which to me does give it a substantial increase in audio quality. So if you don't necessarily want to get the Behringer microphone that I talked about earlier, but you're still looking for a nice budget-friendly setup, then you can still get the AT2005 USB microphone and have it for your USB stuff when you're just getting started. And then when you want to increase your audio quality, go ahead and get you that U40 UM2 audio interface, hook it up to that, and you're going to notice a big increase in your quality. And I think it even fixes a lot of the issues about how dynamic the microphone is and some of the gain issues, where I can actually kind of free roam my head just a little bit more without significantly losing the audio volume, and everything still sounds really, really great in my opinion. So if you've watched any other audio video that recommends any kind of content or equipment rather for streamers and things of that nature that are just starting out, you're going to hear about the Blue Yeti and the Blue Snowball. Personally, in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of those two options. Now, they are just a smidge cheaper than the AT2005 USB, but to me, they just sound so hollow. And I'm not an audiophile by any means, but I can tell almost instantly when I join a stream if somebody's using a Blue Snetty. Like I said, they just, to me, sound a little bit too hollow, a little bit too much built-in noise removal, if that makes sense. And so personally, I really prefer the more natural sounding of the 2005 USB, and the fact that it is compatible with XLR as well is just a huge bonus. And it even has a auxiliary plug-in on the bottom of the microphone, so you can monitor your audio while you're recording it, even if you don't have an audio interface. So even if you're still using that USB setup, this is still one heck of a microphone, guys. Another optional product, again, something that may not directly increase the quality of your stream in a huge way, but is gonna make your life a little bit easier and might increase the quality of the stream as well. But again, by no means nothing that I would say is a must-have or anything like that. As far as your audio monitoring, you're gonna want a good way that you can hear your audio when you're recording and when you're playing it back. And if nothing else, you're gonna want to be able to run some test recordings, especially when you first get started. Find out what settings sound the best for your microphone, what different gain levels sound good as far as balancing out the volume of your microphone versus your gameplay. You know, again, just all depending on how loud you speak, where your microphone is, and things of that nature. So it's going to be different for everybody, and you're going to need to run those tests yourself. So you're going to need something good to monitor your audio, and also, you know, something good to make your games sound good, because you're not going to be able to play your games through your speakers when you're live streaming. And so you're going to want to play them through headphones while you're streaming, so that way it's not just going into your microphone. And so a nice pair of headphones can really go a long way. There's nothing wrong with using your earbuds or whatever other headphones you use on your cell phone. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you want to shell out just a little bit more money, personally, I really recommend these. This is the Audio-Technica ATH M50X, and these are some awesome headphones. I've had these things for years, and I love them. I mean, I've been using them since the early 2010s, and they are amazing. Now, they're about $150, so it's not necessarily a cheap option at all. And they're not exactly the most attractive headphones. You may not, want to be walking through the airport with these. You might look a little bit more stylish with something like some Beats, but these are great for playing games and editing videos and checking your sound. They sound great. The noise cancellation is really good on them. They're comfortable as hell, and they last a really long time. Like I said, I've had these things for going on literally 10 years, and I've not noticed any issues with them whatsoever. But again, not necessarily a must-have if you don't really care about that type of stuff or don't want to spend 150 bucks on that. I would much rather see you guys spend 150 bucks towards getting a decent XLR microphone or a decent USB webcam or something like that than getting the headphones. But hey, if you're balling on a little bit more of a budget and you can spring that, then go ahead and do that. Or you've got more time to save up for the money. You're not saying, oh crap, I gotta be streaming by Christmas time to play this game or something like that. You got a little bit more time to save up and get ready. You know, it's definitely a good option that I would recommend. That isn't breaking the bank in an extreme way. And that's really about it. So those are the main things that I would recommend as far as a budget-friendly setup that you need right now to get started on streaming. Now, the only other thing that we're really missing here is lights and things of that nature. But honestly, guys, if you are balling on a budget and just getting started, I really don't recommend that you start messing with lights just yet, because that can start to get pretty expensive. You know, Elgato's got their lights and things of that nature that definitely get the job done. But personally, again, that's kind of a thing where if you were going to start spending upwards of $100 or more, I would much rather see you use it towards any of the other products in this video than lights. Lighting is pretty important, I will say that, but honestly, when you're just starting out, you can get by with just messing with lamps and lightings in the room that you're gaming in. Try a couple things out. Try, you know, with the window in your room open, with a lamp going over you or not, you know, the overall light in the room on or off. Try different combinations of things like that. And one thing that a lot of people forget about as well is you can tweak the color and exposure settings on your USB webcam to really kind of give it a little bit of a different look. If it's just a little bit too dark, a little bit too dull, not enough contrast, you can tweak those type of things in your webcam, and you can save about $100 by doing that. Now, when you start getting a little bit more serious, you're making some money on your streams and you're ready to invest a little bit of money back into it, then we can talk about lights and green screens and things of that nature. But for the time being, I would much rather see you guys buy literally anything else that I've talked about in this video before you go and buy a nice expensive lighting or green screen setup at this time. So I hope that this video has been at least a little bit helpful. Remember, the links for all the products that I've talked about are in the description of this video, so you can go on Amazon, check them out, and give them a purchase if you'd like. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube here for more gaming and technology related videos in general. I do a lot of different type of stuff here. And also be sure to follow my Twitch that I mentioned earlier, where I do all of my gaming live streams and let's plays and things of that nature as well. You can also join my Discord server where you can chat with me and the rest of my community and get updates on everything. It's a really great time in there, so be sure to check that out. And also feel free to follow me on your social media platform of choice. But other than that, guys, I do want to thank you so much for your time in watching this video. I hope that you liked the video, comment and subscribe to it if you enjoy that and you want to see some more. And other than that, guys, I do want to thank you again for watching. I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.